Well, good evening, fam. Hey, it's your brother G Hightower, the Entanglement Coach, coming in for the late night love chat. And I have been blessed to have my special guest back again, Dr. Tangi Crossfield. Dr. Tangi, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good to see you again tonight. Thank you for joining me again tonight. We are back for an encore. That subject last week, we talked about submission, Dr. Tangi, and it was hot, and several comments were made. And I got a couple of inbox messages as well. People were like, wow, you guys need to do that again. You need to do a part two to that. So we're back tonight, family, for a part two of our broadcast on submission. And tonight, we're going to begin to broach the topic tonight with a bit of a different perspective. We're asking a question tonight. And the question, ladies and gentlemen, is submission a strength or is it misunderstood as weakness? There's a great deal of tension, Dr. Tangi, around this word of submission. I've been in many spaces, many rooms, both online rooms as well as in person events. And when the word submission is mentioned, whoo, you can feel the tension immediately. I mean, some women are just downright triggered. You can literally see a reaction as soon as you're like, yeah, so submission, women like, like something, like something snapped on the inside of them. I'm like, oh my God, is she going to turn into what is she going to manifest into? It's like you say the word submission and it's like manifest. It's like, oh my God. I'm gonna have to cast some devils out of here tonight. It's gonna turn into a deliverance service. But seriously speaking, though, it's some of that is warranted from women because there's a lot of men, and the church of the Lord in general has erroneously taught on this word submission. It has been in many situations, and I've heard the messages. I've been in certain spaces, certainly not any of the churches that I've been a part of, thank God. But I've been in churches, I've been in services, I've heard preachers preach online and wherever and use the word submission, and they've weaponized it. And of course, why women today are often triggered because it's been weaponized in an unhealthy way in relationships, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Biblically speaking, Dr. Tangi, it's been taught from the scripture, but without context. And that therefore it has been used in a way to silence women, to reduce women into this mode of passivity. Um, and ultimately, the testimony that I've heard from women is that, I felt lost in my marriage. I felt like I had no voice. I had a tremendous loss of my own identity. And that's because she's under leadership who doesn't understand submission from a godly perspective. Again, taught from a scriptural context, but taught without context, taught absent of what the real principle of submission means. Um, so we want to delve into this topic tonight. On that note, I want to really share very quickly what the proper definition of submission is. All right. Because submission really is a strength. It's not something that should be used or misused or misunderstood because men in our patriarchal society have been attempting to rule or dominate over women. But the Greek word for the word submission, when we find it in the scripture, the Greek word is hupotasso, which means submission is to align oneself under and to voluntarily yield oneself to the authority of another. So the scripture, ladies, does not instruct you to submit to men. The scripture says submit to your own husband. So I want to get this out here fresh out the gate. Ladies, you are not obligated to submit to men unless there's a man that you work for, or you're under your dad's authority, or you're under your pastor's leadership. But the Bible says, ladies, in Ephesians chapter 5, that you are to submit to your own husbands as it is fit in the Lord. And of course, the scripture is speaking to that your submission is done as unto the Lord, and submitting to him because he is leading you with godly leadership. And he's not leading you in a domineering way. He's not leading you in a way that's ruling over you, silencing your voice, removing your power, and then you suffer a loss of identity. That's not godly leadership. Godly leadership is where this man is leading you because he's following after Christ. And as Apostle Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ, right? So now, if your man is a man of godly character and he's following Christ, then it should be easy for you to follow your husband's leadership as well. Submitting to him means coming under his authority, coming under his leadership, and then you follow him accordingly. So I just wanted to make sure we get that right out the gate, Dr. Tangi.
I'm glad you clarified that because now people know exactly in which direction you're headed. They understand your definition of the word submission, right? And
Well,
so,
I'm not
given
that
this context,
intelligent. I'm not that intelligent. It's not mine. It's
well, I
not mine.
understand it's not yours, but we understand where you're coming from. At least you
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
okay, this is the way we're defining this. And so, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Hmm. Yeah. So there was a great point, Dr. Tangi, that came across your desk, so to speak. I'd love for you to share your thought on this word submission, because again, there's a lot of tension between both men and women, but especially among the women. It's like, wait, hold up, what we submitting to? I know you don't want me to submit to Elgin. I mean, he's my husband and everything, but shoot, I'm the one that's the breadwinner up in here, you know. So there's so many different thoughts about this word. I want to get your perspective and your take, of course, as a woman, when you hear this word submission.
Well, I'm not alarmed at all well, I'm not triggered. It's not a trigger for me to feel like I need to be in
Okay.
defense of making sure I don't lose my identity or making sure that I don't allow someone to lead and guide me. Just simply put, submission is spiritual maturity.
Mm,
You know what it is. You've ascribed to it. You understand the hierarchy of God, that is God, husband, yourself, and then your children. It's like a strength wrapped in humility. Why do I
mm,
say that? Because you have to be humble enough to say, listen, this person that I married, I trust him enough to allow Holy Spirit to lead and guide him. I trust him
mhm,
enough to love me enough that he won't abuse me in this process, that he's really thinking things through, and that he will be careful to ask me what are my thoughts about it, whether he ascribed to it or not. At least he's
yes.
including me in the decision making process. I know many years ago, I have a master's degree in organizational leadership, right?
Mhm,
One of the things that I've learned with some of the texts I've read, that when people are a part of the decision making process, they are more prone to be happy with the decisions that are made, even though you do not adapt their decisions, right?
yes.
And so I
Yes.
think that it's the same thing even with a marriage. You thought of me enough to say, listen, I want to talk to you about a decision that we need to make. This is where I am in this. What are your thoughts about it, right? What is God telling you? And
Mhm,
although you may not ascribe to what it is that I have shared with you, at least you thought enough of me to make sure that my voice is heard. And I think too often that people don't allow both parties involved's voice to be heard. Now, in some cases, women are like this too, because they are really standing in the male's role in their homes, especially if they're the
mhm,
breadwinner in some cases.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and that becomes problematic as well in a relationship. And so where it comes to a head is where there's a decision that has to be made. And to your point, Dr. Tangi, we don't necessarily agree on which direction we should take as a family, as a household, right? Let's use a real life example of education. I remember when my parents, my mom and dad, were arguing, fighting, not physically, but fighting over my education. So I remember my first couple of years, my mom had me in private school. She had me in Montessori school. I'm a Montessori kid, right? Um, well, now kindergarten coming into first grade, my mom wanted to keep me in private school. And my mom was like, look, I mean, we got this boy, he's speaking French and speaking Spanish and da 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 da. Um, he's not going to get the same level of education in a public school. My dad was old school. My dad was like, you can get the same level of education in a public school as you can get in a private school. We ain't about to spend all this money, you know, to be had that boy in a private school and you over there in the, over there in the other neighborhood, you know what he meant by the other neighborhood. And so my dad wasn't down for it. And I remember many, many, many days, my mom just fighting that battle. But in the end, my dad won. It's, public school it is. Um, if you come to a decision, Dr. Tangi, how would you counsel this couple? The husband says, absolutely not. You can get that good education in the public school. But the wife is like, listen, John, we should absolutely put little Johnny in private school. Okay. And I'm standing down on it, doggone it. Right. And so now they're at an impasse. So the question becomes, Dr. Tangi, what do we do in this situation when this is our son's life and how we want to raise him, how we want to develop him and prepare him for the world, right? So what do you do as a couple in that situation? How would you counsel them?
Well, some of the solutions are, but are not limited to having a mediator. I really do feel that every couple should have either a coach, a counselor, or someone, a spiritual figure that they can strongly trust with their deepest, darkest issues or concerns. Trusting
Mm-hmm.
them, knowing that they're not going to publicize it. Trusting them, knowing that they're wise enough to counsel you. You know, you have some nice people out there, however, they're not wise enough to counsel you. That
Indeed.
so having those people or that person that you can trust so you can have a third perspective about where you are and how you need to move forward. And not only that, always prayer and fasting. Let's see what God is saying. Hopefully he will allow us to have a dream, a vision, or a prophetic word to help guide us through this process. But not only that, for me, I love research. I really do. I know one of the things I would say, so what are the pros and cons of making this decision? What does
Mm,
research say? What does the Bible say? What is our coach and our mentor is saying, right? And so let's sit down and let's go over all of those things from all of those different people and those different perspectives and revisit where we are in this process so that we can make a decision that is best, not just for me, not just for you, but for this entire household. And if money is an issue, what is it that we need to do to make sure that we're able to take care of this? I think that some men may feel like, I've got to make sure this family stay afloat. And so since I feel like that's my responsibility, I have to make sure that we make some hard choices around here because I don't want it to be inundated with some unnecessary um, financial burdens that we may not be able to bear. And so in that case, we need to revisit how we're going to not just start in this direction, but how we can continue in this direction. So I'm thinking that in terms of your case with your dad was thinking about whether or not it's really realistic to do it. It wasn't just about the public school sector being able to give you what meets your needs and give you the same quality education. I think that it was a money factor as well.
yeah, of course, he was the primary breadwinner. Um, I mean, 80, 90% of the income came from him. My dad was just an extremely frugal man. My mom's thing was, we can afford it. And so she wanted to, if there was a problem, then let me go get a job. And my dad was like, no, absolutely not. I don't want you working on no job. And, she wanted to go into nursing. And so my dad was like, well, who's going to be here to take care of the kids? and I don't want my kids staying at a babysitter and da 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 da. My dad was very traditional in that sense, right? And I just remember these arguments, just endless arguments about that. But the bottom line was my dad was very frugal. Unfortunately, we didn't have, to your point about research, we didn't have the tools back then that we have today. I grew up in the 70s, you know what I mean? So we ain't have Google, you know what I mean? You
It's
know,
the library, the library,
I
the
mean,
library.
she could have went and did that, but her thing was, 1 + 1 = 2. Like, why can't you see? I mean, obviously, the more affluent families have their children in private school, especially when they notice that their child has an exceptional gift, right? Exceptional academic ability. So why not allow him to be trained at the highest level, within our budget? And my dad was like, "Oh, absolutely." My dad was just like, he wasn't spending nothing he was just an extremely frugal man. Unfortunately, he didn't understand the value of that. And so, but to put a bow on that topic, I love what you said, seeking wise counsel. I don't know if most people are astute enough or have enough spiritual foresight to look for some type of prophetic counsel. But at least most people, if you're in a church, most people are wise enough to at least seek pastoral counsel on that matter, right? We're talking about submission tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Late Night Love Chat. I am your host, G. Hightower, and I'm blessed to have my dear friend back with us tonight for part two of this discussion on submission, Dr. Tangi Crossfield. Dr. Tangi, before we go a little bit further, tell them about Love Manifesto. What is Love Manifesto all
See,
about? Sounds like a
love.
delicious dish.
Actually, many years ago, I would say maybe 8 years ago, the Lord actually dealt with this about in a dream about starting this podcast, because at first it was inspirational talk with Dr. Tangi, and then it was changed to Love Manifesto. And I thought, God, you're choosing me to talk about love. I love the idea of being in love. I love the idea of talking about love. And so he just downloaded this premise to me uh, to explore, to analyze, and to manifest thriving platonic, intimate, and business relationships. The word love is universal. If you don't have to speak the same language to have to love somebody or to desire to love someone, every culture, every ethnicity, every tribe is it knows about love or is familiar with love or want to love. Love drives everything. And I even go as far as saying love drives hate. Some people have a love for being hateful, right? so so love is something that I enjoy talking about, and I don't think you can ever exhaust the topic.
No, you cannot. You can never exhaust that topic. Somebody who followed me started following me on social media on the Periscope platform. Were you ever on Periscope, Dr. Tangi?
Yes, I was.
I love Periscope. Oh my God. Telling you, I love that platform, and I'm blessed to have some good friends. We made really, really real relationships because we went off the app. We had Periscope meetups in different cities and things like that, which were really cool. So I'm blessed to have some good brothers and sisters in my life from that platform. But someone who's been following me for at least 10 years from that platform um, recently reached out to me and says, "Wow, Dr. G, it is so good to see you doing your thing. Like, I thought you would have moved on to something else." And the whole conversation about love and relationships, Dr. Tangi, it's an endless topic. And for me, I didn't choose to go into this field. I was chosen for it. Um,
Mhm.
Honestly, I'll be very transparent here without getting too emotional. But honestly, because of some of the setbacks that I've experienced in my personal life, I feel like the least qualified person to talk about love and relationships. But again, it's not something I chose to do. I didn't go to the unemployment office and say, let's see, police officer, firefighter, hey, relationships coach, relationship counselor. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Gosh darn it. Yeah. It wasn't that. It was God's choosing. And when I've tried to put it away, after going through a divorce and all of that, I try to like, man, I'm cool. I'm not even going to do that anymore. I've literally had people reach out to me from around the world. Literally, I had a dear sister reach out to me from France, who follow my blogs when I was blogging. And she literally reached out to me and called me long distance. She says, I just want to know, my brother, that you're okay because you've disappeared off of social media. Are you okay? I mean, call me all the way from France.
Wow.
I miss your post. I miss the word that you share. You're one of the few men out here talking about relationships from a holistic perspective and from a spiritual perspective. And I'm like, wow, that was so cool. And so I realize I do have a responsibility to this field. And so here we are. So, thank you for sharing that about Love Manifesto. When I hear Love Manifesto, I think about some delicious entree that has all this good stuff in it. Good evening, Miss Cheryl. Good evening, Geraldine. Blessings to you. My cousin is in the building as well. Rhonda is in the building. Good to see you, Rhonda. My cousin says, I want you to come. Okay, cousin, I got you. I got you. All right, Miss Geraldine is tuning in from Toledo, Ohio. If you're in the broadcast tonight, family, please drop us in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know that. Dr. Tangi and I would like to know where the audience is tuning in from, what city. Shout out your city tonight. We're talking about submission tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And the question we're asking is submission a strength or misunderstood as weakness? And we started out talking about actually properly defining what submission really is. And Dr. Tangi has shared a couple of things about what the submission is not. Mr. Earl Mitchell is in the building. Good evening, sir. Coming in all the way from New York. All right. Shout out to NY in the building. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Music heals the soul. Oh, I like that. Wow, what a nice handle. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in. All right, Miss Desiree is tuning in from Petersburg, St. Pete, Florida. All right, good stuff, good stuff. Thank you for tuning in. So let's delve back into it. There's my beautiful sister all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. LaMercia is tuning in. Wow, LaMercia, let's see. So she is 7 hours ahead of us, Tangi. So she's tuning in at like 3:30 in the morning, her time. Wow. Thank you, Tangi, for tuning in. Miss Charlene is tuning in from New York. All right, the East Coast is representing in here tonight. Good stuff. All right, so listen, let's delve into it, shall we? So, ladies, what I do want you to know, and I want you to hear this from a man's perspective, that what submission is not. Submission does not mean that you have a loss of identity. Submission does not mean that you are to tolerate abuse. Unfortunately, the church has gotten this horribly wrong, where over the years, many pastors have counseled wives, telling them to stay with their husbands in an abusive situation. Well, baby, you got to stay submitted to your husband. Listen, I am a pastor. I've been serving in pastoral ministry for 22 years. I pastored a local church in Southern California for 10 years. And I'm going to tell you in here tonight, ladies, if that man puts his hands on you, throw up the deuces, wave the peace sign, and get out, okay? Do not stay in a situation where a man is putting his hands on you. The devil is a lie and his cousins, all right? The era that I'm from and where I'm born and raised, shout out to my hood, LA, South Central LA. You know where it is. The West Side is the best side. I know y'all New Yorkers. I know you're New Yorkers. I got friends and family members from Brooklyn. I know, and I know y'all always talking about the East Coast and all that, but the West Coast is the best coast. All right, now got that out the way. But listen, seriously speaking, ladies, please hear me tonight as your brother. Do not stay in an abusive situation. That man puts his hands on you, it's time to raise up and send the praise up. Okay. Do not stay there. You are not obligated. God does not obligate you to stay with a man who is abusing you. The Bible instructs us as husbands that we are to love our wives as we love our own bodies. I've never seen a sober minded man beating on himself. And so if he's beating on his wife, that's essentially if he's beating on his wife, he's beating on himself. And so that means that you are free to leave that situation. You do not stay there. Submission does not require you. It does not obligates you to stay in an abusive situation. Okay. And the final point that I'll make here, because submission, again, is not about tolerating abuse physically, emotionally, verbally. Submission is also not positioning you, ladies, causing you to be in a position of inferiority. All right. It does not mean that you are inferior to your husband because you are submitted to him. It does not mean that you have to agree with everything that he says and does. You don't have to agree with everything he says and does. Quite frankly, I don't want my wife being a Stepford wife. I don't want my wife to be like the sister in Coming to America. Well, baby, what do you think about whatever you like? Okay, well, baby, what do you think we should eat tonight? Whatever you like. Well, we driving down the road, like, hey, baby, put some music on. Whatever music you would like. Like, baby, I'm gonna need for you to have your own brain in your head, okay? I married you because I need your help. You are graced, anointed, educated to know things, to be able to function in various areas and do things, produce things that I'm not as strong, I'm not as proficient as you. And so we have complementary gifts and talents and abilities, Dr. Tangi. So that means, as my wife, you are my helpmeet. There are things that you're going to know that I won't know. There's insight you're going to have that I don't have. So I'm going to lean on you. And so this brings us, Dr. Tangi, into the discussion about mutual submission. Mutual submission does not mean that we have equal levels of authority. I know a lot of women teach like that. It's not true, ladies. I'm here to tell you, we're going to be sound in teaching this word in here tonight, okay? We're going to exegete the text properly. Mutual submission does not mean that we're both equal heads. There's no organization, no organism, no system on planet Earth where you've seen two heads of anything. If you see a two-headed anything, it's a monster or an alien. Okay. Proper headship, according to God's divine order, is that the head of the husband is Christ. The head of every wife is her husband. So the husband has headship. But wise husbands and men, those of you that are husbands, you all let me know in the chat. Wise husbands will always lean on his wife's wisdom, seek her counsel. Wise husbands are know, they say, hey, you know what? I'm a check in with my wife. Every brother that I personally know, Tangi, who's married, if it's any kind of major decision, oh yeah, Dr. G, let me get back at you at that. Well, you can't tell me right now. Yeah, man, I gotta check in with wifey. You know what I mean? I gotta check in with my wife first. Wise men check in with their wives because it's not because you're not a grown man. It's not because you're not wise enough to make your own decisions. But when you are married and you have a family, you are now accountable to your wife. And that's where we have, Dr. Tangi, mutual submission. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this: with every position comes a set of responsibilities. And
Mm,
so when you're hired on a job, they'll say, okay, we're hiring you in this position. And with this position becomes these responsibilities. However, if there's a problem when you are out, then we will have someone else to undergird your position, which is why we
yes.
cross train other people. And sometimes they call them floaters. What am I saying? When you enter into a marriage, you should understand what are your responsibilities. For example, are you going to be the one doing the dishes, doing the cooking? If not, who's going to do it? Will you do it Monday through Friday? When you're sick, who's going to do it? People don't have all of these conversations. They wait until something happens and then they try to put out the fire. The thing is that for every position there's responsibilities, and that's something that you need to discuss before you get married. That's what you need to do. And so hopefully that is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely helpful. Listen, I got the solution to doing the dishes. It's called housekeeper, because I don't want my wife in there flopping a mop around and busting suds and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we got a dishwasher, so we can share responsibility with that, right? Personally, even in my home, which when my dad and I purchased a home years ago, that house was only 3 years old when we bought it. And Tangi, we've never ever used the dishwasher. Both of us are old school. I have a dishwasher in my home. I'm hand washing. I just don't trust dishwashers. And quite frankly, I kind of enjoy washing dishes sometimes. But yeah, that's the easy thing. We can, as you said, Dr. Tangi, having those discussions beforehand, even while we're dating or courting, we should have those discussions beforehand. All right, so let's dig into a couple of little controversial pieces, Dr. Tangi, because I definitely want to get your viewpoint on this when we're talking about submission. Um, of course, I want to talk about this from what is the difference about submission, um, the difference between weakness and controlled strength. I love the definition you gave earlier. You talked about humility and really kind of tying in submission with the definition of the word meekness, which means great power with restraint. I'd like to get your take on this piece, Dr. Tangi, because let's boom, 21st century. There's a lot of women in marriages who are making more money than the husband. And this is where a great deal of tension comes in because when critical decisions have to be made, oftentimes, not always, but in many cases, the woman who's making more money than her husband feels like she should be calling the shots, you know? And so I wanted to get your take on that. What is the difference between weakness and controlled strength, and as it relates to submission? And if the woman is making more cheddar to make the household better, should she now be in charge and running things, and her husband be submitted to her authority if she's more so the primary breadwinner?
Okay, you're asking me two questions. You
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that,
I
right?
am. I'm
so
guilty.
so so I like to address one issue first, and that is about the woman making more money than the man.
Hmm.
And in America, the black woman is more educated than the black man, right? She is. Look at the research. She
In
has
many,
more. She has more. She has more degrees.
in many
She has
situations.
a, yeah, exactly. She has a tendency to make more money, and in these cases, sometimes women who did not ascribe to submission in the way that we've described it, feel like they shouldn't submit to anyone. They shouldn't share the the headship with a man because they feel like if he cannot take care of all the bills on his own, why should she trust him to lead and guide her? And I like to say this: having the most money doesn't necessarily mean that you are most capable of leading and guiding a household. I don't think so. However, I will say that there are people that feel like, we get the right to choose how we want to do our household. And they do.
Hmm. So in that situation, where let's say, to use your example, a woman who is, she has more education, which, education doesn't equate to great leadership. You and I both have been in corporate situations where the cat with the most degrees was the dumbest joker in the room, right? Um, so education doesn't equate to leadership, especially from a godly standpoint.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about the economics of the situation, and I like what you said, Dr. Tangi, but I'd like you to go a little bit further because this is something that hopefully can provide some answers and maybe provide some healing in these relationships where um, the man was making, let's say he's making 90,000, she's making 150,000 or 200,000 a year, right? She's making significantly more, maybe twice as much as he's making. And this is where the conversations become challenged. This is where there becomes a high level of tension in the home, in the relationship. Not because the man is not happy with his career, but he just doesn't want to feel like he's being ruled over, or that his wife is attempting to usurp authority because she's making more money. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Hopefully, this will answer your question. I think first and foremost, people need to discuss prior to getting married the economic structure or module of their home. One of the basic needs of a woman, the five basic needs of a woman, is financial security. That's one of her basic needs. It's
Right.
not said that that's one of the basic needs for a man, but it is one of the basic needs for a woman. And I think that one of the ways that I would, I'm not saying that it's best suitable for you, but one of the ways that I would do that, if I'm making the 150 a year and he's making a 90,000 a year, I would propose that we put in percentages of our monies into, let's say, a savings account. A certain percentage of our money into an account will be paid for the bills, a certain percentage, 10% for tithes and that kind of stuff, and a certain percentage that we will keep for ourselves to do as we please. So in that case, we're not feeling like, hopefully, like, okay, you're the one paying all the bills. No, I gave 50% of my money to pay towards bills. 10% of my money is for tithes. 10% of my money is for savings and or investment, those kinds of stuff. You come in with a strategy that you can agree to and you follow through with it. I think that you'll be less likely to get into an argument about finances. And people don't
Mm,
usually do this. They don't. They just
that's true.
assume that this other person is going to ascribe to their way of handling money.
Well, Dr. Tangi, the way my dad taught was that the man is supposed to take care of all of the basic needs of the family. So it doesn't matter if she makes 150 and I only make 90, which, in the world that we live in today, it's interesting that 90,000 a year is frowned upon. It's bananas. And when we do the research, we'll find that many people with master's degree, the median income range in America with people with that hold master's degrees is somewhere between 75 and 120,000 a year. People who are upwards over 100,000, those are people are at the higher end of the financial spectrum. But the median income range for people with master's degrees is somewhere between 75 to about 100,000. I know a lot of people that graduated from very good institutions and they're not making 100,000 a year. So there you go. I'm with that. But in that scenario that you just gave us, Dr. Tangi, and thank you for breaking that down, um, explaining that the way you did, I believe that, as you stated, conversations need to be had beforehand. I'm almost of the belief, Dr. Tangi, that in addition to premarital counseling, we should probably have pre engagement counseling.
Wow.
That before we even decide, before I even take that knee and put a ring on, I like it, so I'm gonna put a ring on it, right? And so, so I'm following what Beyonce said. If you like it, put a ring on it, So I did that, you know what I mean? But then we found out that we absolutely love each other, Dr. Tangi, but we we may disagree on the management of finances. So going back to what I was saying about my dad raised me that the man is supposed to take care of all the fundamental needs of the household. The man's job is to take care of the mortgage and everything concerning the house. And then if he's able, then take care of, other stuff such as the cars and so on and so on and so forth, right? And so the question is asked, well, if the woman is making more money than the man, then why is he paying all the bills? Well, the man's primary position by God's standard, forget about what society is talking about, y'all. By God's standard, the primary position of the man is provider and protector. All right. Now, if you are blessed where you have a woman who is making a good amount of money, then you all have to have conversations with regards to that and how that money is managed. But the household needs, putting groceries up in there, water, light, gas, all that stuff that needs to happen. And then, depending on where his income is and what budget we have set aside for the vehicles, that the maintenance of the vehicles should be covered by the husband as well. There are some women who are very, mechanically inclined, but most women are not. Most women would be challenged if you ask them to change a windshield wiper. So I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just the
I'm
truth.
one of those women.
I, No shade at you, Dr. Tangi. You know you are my friend.
No,
you know. Yeah, change that windshield wiper. Um, do I change it from the inside or from the outside? Is there a button that you can so so the man, the husband, as my dad taught me, Dr. Tangi, should be taking care of all of those fundamental needs. Now, you have to come into agreement with what how the money is going to be managed from the wife's perspective. Do you agree with that? Not so
well,
much.
if I'm relying totally on your $90,000, that means we have to live according to the standards that you can provide. When I'm making almost double what you're making, and I'm like, so we have to settle for this $200,000 house when we can have a $300,000 house. I mean,
No, it doesn't mean that.
well, how are you going to pay for the $300,000 house if you're making $90,000? Because everything increases at this point. The house is larger. The electricity bill is going to be more expensive. The taxes going to be more expensive. The HOA may be more expensive. You can't afford it. So that means that realistically, we can only live in a $200,000 house because that's all your salary can afford.
No, that I think you misunderstood me, Tangi. When we're
Okay.
talking about that, that's making an investment. I was
Oh, okay.
specifically talking about covering the bills, right?
Okay.
When you talk about making an investment like that, I mean, we absolutely, I mean, we're partners, right?
Okay.
So we
Yes.
absolutely should partner together. A wise man ain't gonna be in a $200,000 house when his wife loves that $300,000 house. I
Mhm.
think we need to up that, Dr. Tangi. I think we need to go from 300 to 400,000. Yeah,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
go there. Yeah. So yeah, a man, a wise man, he ain't gonna keep his wife in that house when she's like, but John, I like that house over there on the hill. And he's like, yeah, baby, I'm gonna need a little more cheddar to get that. You know what I mean? So that's where we partner together. If we're one, then I mean, my responsibility is my responsibility in terms of taking care of the bills, Dr. Tangi. But we're making an investment for our lives together. Then I'm absolutely going to be like, hey, baby, so can you share some of that cheddar so we can make this investment together, right?
Mhm.
That's, I mean, I used to be a mortgage banker. That's what I've seen all couples do, and there were several couples that I worked with, both white, black, as well as Latino couples where the wife made more. And they just say, hey, we're going
Mhm.
to bring all of this money together.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because we're making an investment for our future. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want you to be limited. I don't want you to live in a two-story, cardboard box when we can be moving on up. Let's move on up. You know what I mean? But that's where we'll have to partner together, and
Mhm.
then, and really, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are considering marriage, this is what's really going to test the metal of your relationship when we start dealing with money. This is where you're going to see, do we have true equal partnership when we start dealing with the money? And believe it or not, a lot of marriages get in conflict or even end due to a disagreement regarding the management of money or just not enough money. So that's a whole problem by itself. But Dr. Tangi, does it, if a woman says that, hey, I've got this amount, does that put her in a position where she feels like she's dominating over her husband? If she says, I want to bring this money to the table because I want us to get that 400 or that $500,000 house?
I don't think so because she's volunteering. Like you said, it's an investment, it's an asset. No.
Is
Mm-mm.
the man a weak man if he's asking his woman to bring some of her financial power to the table?
I
Does
don't
that
think
make him a
so.
weak man?
I don't think so.
Do
Of
you feel
course,
that women should lose something if she lose a little respect for her man if his income isn't enough to get the kind of home that they want, that she wants?
no, because it's an asset. It's not as if he said, okay, I want you to go buy something frivolously and just throw something away. No, that's not the case. No, I don't think so.
Okay. So because I've heard this conversation, I ask you that question because I've heard this conversation. I've literally had women tell me, if my husband asks me for help financially, I'm going to help him, but I'm going to lose a little respect for him.
That's interesting because our forefathers, our grandmothers and great grandmothers, whenever the household was in trouble, guess what? She was usually the one to bail you out because
That's
she was
right.
saving money
That's
the
right.
entire time.
Grandma
And
always
people,
got some money.
Big Ma always had some money hidden somewhere to bail you out in a time of need. That's what they did. And so, why can't we do that now? It's not like the money's being tossed away or being abused, but it's making sure that you stay afloat. It's making sure that you are taking care of your assets, or that you're building assets, not just for yourself, but for your children. You're leaving an inheritance to your children's children. And so, yeah.
Amen. I totally agree. All right. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, while you're here, we still have a few minutes left. If you can believe it, Dr. Tangi, we've been on already almost 47 minutes. Um, by all means, ladies and gentlemen, if you have some questions, drop your questions in the chat. We will be glad to answer your questions to the best of our ability. Mr. Earl Mitchell, if you are still here, sir, I would love for you to chime in. Drop a question in for us, Mr. Earl Mitchell. I'd love to hear your insight or your take on this topic. Again, a very controversial topic at times, not always, but in many cases. You want to get a room filled with tension quick? You go in a room full of highly educated, entrepreneurial, creative women and talk about submission. Baby, I'm telling you, it'll get hot in there real quick. Um, Desiree said, I watched my mom go to work to help my dad when he needed the help. Listen, that's called partnership in a relationship. It's partnership. All right. Listen, every man worth his salt would love to be able to do everything for his wife so that she doesn't ever have to walk out that door to earn a dollar. Okay. Every man worth his salt would desire to do that. In today's economy, it's most often not possible that one person can do everything. In most cases, there are some cases where, hey, that man is making so much money. He's got this, he's got multiple revenue streams coming in. So he's taking care of his wife. She ain't got to worry about nothing. Okay. That is definitely doable. And again, most men desire to be there. Okay. The fact is, in today's economy, let's go back to that house, Dr. Tangi, that house that you wanted. Okay. Because you said you want to move on up. Praise God. Right. So even here where you and I live in the Metro Atlanta, Georgia area, your nicer homes are even going to be upwards of 300,000. Your
Mm-hmm.
nicer homes in your nicer neighborhoods, we're talking about 4 to 500,000 for your
Mm-hmm.
nicer homes in nicer neighborhoods. Right? We've gone beyond 300,000.
Well,
That's
I'm thinking about the $90,000 year salary. How much house can that afford? See,
right
I was not saying how much we could afford with our salaries combined,
together. Right.
right? But what I'm saying is that what can that $90,000 afford a year? You're talking about not just paying for the house, but also the vehicles and all the other things. So being realistic about what you can afford.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely make sense. So yeah, that's where two incomes are going to be important if we want to have a certain quality of life. Because most women are not going to be comfortable with just one salary at 90,000 taking care of everything. It's like, okay, that means we have no entertainment budget. You know what I mean? Our entertainment is going to be Netflix and chill. You know, you know, forget going to a concert, you know what I mean? Hamburger girl, you see how much I was paying for your Range Rover? That joker had to go to the shop and it was a $1,500 maintenance bill I had to pay for this joker. Oh, here's Mr. Earl Mitchell. Earl says, is being equally yoked and financially compatible a possibility in today's thinking and economy? Ooh, great question, Mr. Earl Mitchell. Ooh, Dr. Tangi,
But
Mr. Mitchell
don't,
is
don't
your
toss that
friend.
mic to me. I want you to answer
Mr.
it first
Mitchell
from
is
a
your
man's
friend.
perspective.
I'm going to give
Answer
you
from a
first
man's
stab at it.
perspective.
I'm gonna give you first step. Mr. Mitchell is your friend. He's here on your behalf. Praise the Lord.
Can you share the question one more time?
It's right there. Is being equally yoked and financially compatible a possibility? Is it even possible in today's society, in today's economy?
Absolutely. Again, you have to make sure you come to that round table, have a discussion about what your expectations of each person. What are your 5 year goals? How do you plan to execute that? What do you need to manifest it, right? And the thing is that when it comes to assets, it doesn't hinge on just one person's income. It hinges on both.
Hmm. I love this question, Earl. Thank you for asking it. Um, Equally yoked and financial compatibility. One of the things that I teach, Earl, in our relationships counseling and premarital counseling, I'm using this model that God gave me, and I call it the COP factor, compatibility of purpose. And when we look at compatibility of purpose, we're breaking down how we are aligned with each other spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, physically, financially, right? And socially. Do we share same core values? And of course, when we're talking about money, are our values aligned when it comes to money? Do we have the same stewardship principles? There are some couples that they fight over should we tithe or not. I believe in tithing. I believe in giving. People can say all day, "Oh, you're giving all that money to the church." The church cannot exist. I mean, it's interesting that people will complain about the money given to the church, but nobody complains about the money given to Susan G. Komen Foundation for breast cancer research, right? Nobody can say, where the money going? You know, but a gazillion dollars is being given to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. So, like any other nonprofit enterprise, the church is most often supported through the tithes and offerings and in kind donations that come from both members and outside people as well. So a lot of people will argue, should we tithe or not, especially when we get in a crunch, Dr. Tangi. Hey, we got the house note coming up. Oh my God. We got a snow thing that froze our pipes and then the pipe burst. Now we got a $3,000, plumbing bill. Hey, we can't afford to take no money down there to the church, right? So we have to discuss all of these things beforehand, before we get married. And quite frankly, I believe we should discuss them before we get engaged, even when we're courting. Hey, I need to know, what are your core values on a financial level? Are we compatible? To Earl's question, are we compatible? Right. So the answer to your question, Earl, is absolutely. It's possible. It's very doable. You just got to have the right person that you have these discussions with. And we got to be, I'm going to use this word, Mr. Earl Mitchell, we have to be courageous enough to have the difficult conversations up front. Don't wait. Don't wait until we're both head over heels in love and drunk in the euphoria of we're engaged now and now it's time to plan for the wedding. Where's the venue? Let's find the dress and we ain't about to get caught up in all that. Hey, baby, how you feel about giving? How do you feel about saving? Do we have an investment portfolio? How are we going to go about the management of that? Right? All those things, we need to have those conversations. So, yes, Earl, it is definitely possible. I think we both have to be patient enough to make sure, both men and women, we both have to be patient enough to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with the right person who values what we value. All right. There you go. I don't have a hand clap or an applause button, but I think we did well on that one, Dr. Tangi. I think we both did well.
Yes.
I love the question. Thank you so much. I love the question. Desiree said her folks, her mom and dad were married 62 years, 62 wonderful years. Wow. Desiree says she watched her mom go to work when dad needed help. Hey, daddy was holding it down, but when times got tough, mom said, hey, let me go pick up a job real quick. And again, a wise man will say, okay, I'm going to submit to what my wife is requesting of me because it's going to help our household flow better. Boom. Simple as that. Dr. Tangi,
What's your question?
I see, I don't have a question. I just see that brilliant mind. I see it churning,
Yeah.
churning.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying internally. I'm totally agreeing with what you're saying. I don't have a problem at all with contributing financially to our household. My household is our household. My money is my husband's money. And so that's the
Wait a
way I
minute.
see it.
Hold up. Wait a
It's his
black
money.
minute.
It's his money too.
Wait a black minute. No, so wait a black minute because
It's
you know
his money
the
too.
black minute is a little longer, brother Earl. Black minute a little longer than a regular minute. Wait a black minute. Did you just say that your money is your husband's money?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What?
Because why should I marry a man that I cannot trust with everything about me? Why would I marry you if I feel like if I say my money is your money and your money is my money and I can trust you in that space not to abuse that privilege? Why would I marry you? There's no way in the world I will marry a man whom I cannot trust with everything concerning our marriage, and that includes the money.
Whew, Dr. Tangi, your inbox is gonna be
I
blowing
can't hear you.
up. You about to get all kind of you can't hear me? Oh wow, that's not good. Dr. Tangi's about to get all kind of inbox requests. Ooh wee. It's a whole lot of brothers gonna be like, hey, that's a nice looking sister. I like the way she think. Yeah, let me go holler at her. You would do well because Dr. Tangi is a good woman. Let me speak on her behalf. She's not just a good looking woman, she is a good woman. Dr. Tangi, I was telling him that your inbox is about to blow up. Yes, hunty hunty. Men are gonna be like, hey, let me holler at you. So you single, where you live? You about to get flooded because this is something that women don't say. They don't believe this at all, Dr. Tangi.
Well,
They don't believe this. A lot of women feel like, and I've heard it said, and I'm talking about among Christian women, godly women, his money is my money, and my money is my
yeah,
money.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm,
I'm hearing the OJs in my head. I'm hearing the OJs. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-na-na-na-na. Money, 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 money. I'm hearing it in my head right now. I'm telling you, Dr. Tangi, it has been a challenge. And so now this brings us to marriage. Oh, I really want to stay on the topic of submission, Dr. Tangi, but it's coming up on 9 o'clock. We're at the 1 hour mark. Should we go a little bit longer? Should we go a little bit further?
Is there any questions in the inbox that
There
you think
is.
we need to
No, what
address?
there aren't any questions right now. I'm keeping my
Okay.
eye on the chat. But Miss
Okay.
Geraldine says, I totally agree with Dr. Tangi. This also is a part of being equally yoked. Ooh, Geraldine. Come on, Miss
That's right.
Geraldine.
I
Hamburger.
felt God. I felt God. I felt the Holy Spirit sit on me. Seriously, I'm not in the flesh. I feel the Holy Spirit set on me when you read that. Absolutely.
Mm. This is a part of being equally yoked. I love that, Miss Geraldine. Ooh, my
Mhm.
God in heaven. Listen, so let's delve a little bit deeper into this. So why are women struggling? Why do high achieving women struggle, Dr. Tangi, with the concept of submission? So it's particularly again women who are on the other side of 40, women who are educated, women who are doing exceptionally well in their vocation, in their career, and or with their business. This is also true about women who are well established in ministry as well and doing very well in ministry, with her speaking engagements, books, and so on and so forth. So that part is also essential. Earl, I see you. I'm going to come to you in just a second. But let me share a couple of things. And gentlemen, this is for you. Why do women struggle with the concept, with the principle of submission? Number one, because women have been leading. A woman who's always been leading is going to have a challenge. It's not impossible, but she's going to have a challenge with submitting. Okay. If she's always been in a leadership position. All right. Number two, in addition to leading, she's also been the provider. If she's a single mom where maybe her previous husband passed away, I have a couple of ladies that I work with. They had husbands who were in the military. I have one lady who had a husband who had a husband. He was a police officer. He passed away, unfortunately, in the line of duty. And so you have women who are widowed, as well as women who are single moms, and she's always been providing. She's always been leading. And so now you're asking that woman who's been doing this for a lifetime, or at the very least for 5, 10, 15 years, and you're asking that woman to unlearn and undo everything she's been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years or her entire adult life. And you're asking her to bring all of that under the authority of her husband. And it's not necessarily, gentlemen, that she doesn't want to, but sometimes women don't know how to. She doesn't know how to make that transition. She finds it very difficult. And it's not even that she doesn't love you, that she doesn't trust you, but I want you to put yourself, gentlemen, we have to put ourselves in that woman's shoes. Think about the things that we've been doing our whole entire lives. For example, that we suppress how we feel instead of express how we feel. And a woman who's saying, I need my man to be emotionally available. And that ain't what we used to doing. We ain't wired like that. Come on, you talking to a former football player. My daddy told me when I had a broken ankle, man up, stop crying. I was 12. So think about it, brothers. What we're often asking a woman to do, my God, I feel God right here. What we're often asking a woman to do is to undo all of her wiring that she's been doing for, in many cases, for a lifetime, or at the very least for a long time. And think about how difficult that transition is for us when women are saying that they want us to be vulnerable. And it contradicts everything within us as masculine men. Right. So that's just food for thought, gentlemen. These are the reasons. It's not an excuse as to why she hasn't submitted or why she finds it difficult to submit. It's not an excuse. It's just a reason. This is a cause of why that challenge exists. Dr. Tangi?
Absolutely. But I think in addition to that, some of that is trust issues. Like she might love you, but she don't trust you enough to manage her money. She just doesn't. She doesn't trust you enough to submit to you. It's okay to be in that role, but without the responsibilities. She feels like she's more capable
Mm,
of leading than you are of leading.
mm.
You know
Talk
that
about it.
that's it's just the truth. Fear, trust are issues.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's powerful. Mr. Earl Mitchell says, trust is such. Can you read that, Dr. Tangi? Can you see that?
No, I don't have on my eyeglasses.
Okay. He says that trust is such a core value of any relationship. Dr. Tangi is so correct and speaks to that part of spirit that each partner gives to each other. It represents a true exchange of spirit that shows submission, depth of love, and true mutual relationship. Agape, unconditional love. I love that. Thank you, Mr. Earl Mitchell.
Well said.
Beautifully stated. So trust, and Dr. Tangi just stated that trust is a factor. So what I just shared with you, gentlemen, is the why. Why oftentimes women have a challenge. What Dr. Tangi just shared with you, and then Mr. Earl Mitchell states as well in his comment that trust is the core value, right? I call it one of the relationship pillars. It's a necessary relationship pillar. A relationship cannot stand unless it is standing on the pillar of trust. Okay. So, what Dr. Tangi is saying is that fear is a factor.
Mhm.
Why she may not be as willing to submit. Dr. Tangi, I want you to go a little deeper on that fear factor because you can help some women who might be struggling with that. She absolutely loves her husband. And in her heart of hearts, she does trust her husband, but she's having a difficult time making that transition. Dr. Tangi, go a little deeper on that, the fear factor and the trust factor.
Well, the fear factor is that this woman that we're talking about, I'm assuming that it's a woman that's in a leadership role, a woman that's making more money than her husband, a woman who was doing well even before she got married. She married this man because she loved him and she knows what his strengths and weaknesses are. And one of his weaknesses might be that he's not really good with taking care of finances. And so she doesn't feel compelled to alleviate those responsibilities to him, that although he may mean well, he still may fumble. He still may cause problems. Still may cause them to lose the house. So she's just simply just has a difficult time with releasing that type of responsibility to him. And so she rather make sure that she continue to live the quality of life that she's lived so far or plans to live, but she doesn't feel like that's something that he is capable of making sure that they maintain or making sure it's something that they obtain. So she just doesn't trust him because she don't feel like he have the qualifications to do it.
She doesn't trust him because she
He do-
doesn't feel that he has the qualifications. Oh, so that means there has been perhaps a history of him fumbling or not quite measuring up to the standard that she's accustomed to in terms of sound financial management, right?
Right.
Wow. Mm, that is deep right there. So then, gentlemen, what Dr. Tangi is saying to us as men is that we have to demonstrate sound financial management so that your woman can trust you. This leads us back to a conversation, Dr. Tangi. This leads us back to a conversation where a lot of men are saying nowadays that because of what you just mentioned and so wonderfully articulated, because of that, men are waiting longer now to get married because a man is saying, I'm going to make sure that every single one of my financial ducks are in order before I propose to a woman. And so now watch this. I'm going to speak from personal experience, Dr. Tangi. I have personally had a woman that I was dating, that I was in love with. We were in love with each other. But her thing was, gee, why are you waiting to get this in place and that in place and that in place when I already have all of that in place? We can work together. What I have is what you have, and vice versa. And I was thinking, like, yeah, my daddy ain't raised no fool. you know, I can't move into your home, even though you have this big, wonderful, stately home, right? I can't do that. And, I have two factors going on inside of me. On the one hand, I got my dad sitting on my left shoulder saying, what did I tell you? I can hear my dad, God rest his soul. I can hear him saying, what I tell you, you don't move in no woman's home. You wait until you got your own. So I hear that. And then the other part is, and this is just natural thinking, Dr. Tangi, and I'll gladly stand corrected if I'm wrong on it, but I don't believe I am. That God forbid, in the event of a heated argument or some kind of situation that occurs, that at any given moment, that woman can say, it's my house. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no. I mean, at any moment. And so should I maintain that negative thought of the possibility of what could go wrong versus focusing on doing what's right? Probably. I should focus more so on doing what's right. But we also have to prepare for inevitability, that at some point there's going to be a disagreement. At some point, she may get angry for me about something and may decide, for whatever reason, hey, you know what, Jack? You can hit the road and don't come back. So a lot of men today, Dr. Tangi, are not necessarily not wanting to be married. And I'm talking about men in my personal network and men of God that I know. I can't speak for the men in the world because I don't know too many men in the world who are interested in married at all, at all. especially men of means, men of influence. But men that I know personally, men of godly character, they understand the importance of marriage, no matter how accomplished they are, how much money they have. Um, so a lot of men, I want you to speak to this issue, Dr. Tangi, because of what you just alluded to. A lot of men are saying, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until I get plenty of money, until I'm able to get the house or I have the house already, before I get married, because I don't want to marry a woman who has significantly more than me and may say, because I have more than you, I don't trust your ability. I trust my own ability, not yours, because clearly I'm doing better than you. What would you say to that, Dr. Tangi?
Well, I'll say this. First of all, is that the man that God has for me, right?
Hmm.
Second of all, is this the season that we're supposed to get married? And if that's the case, I have more than he has. Why can't we both sell what we have and buy a house together if that will make him more comfortable? Because really, she could say, okay, it's time to go. She gets mad. This is her house. You got to go. And I think that both parties will feel more comfortable if they purchase a home together.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, she could be on that Diana Ross energy. It's my house and I live here. She could. Miss Geraldine says that she has a solution. She says she should sell the house, and both of you all should purchase a house together. Listen,
Absolutely.
one of my best friends in the whole world. We've been boys since we were 13. Um, he just recently retired as a judge. Um, he had a nice home when he was single. His wife, she had a nice home, and that's exactly what they did. They both sold their houses and they bought a house together.
Mhm.
You know, I think her house was a little bigger than his house. E, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. You forgive me. You know I love you. I think her house was a little bigger than his house, and he had a nice house. His house was real nice, but I think her house was a little bit bigger, a little bit nicer. But regardless of all of that, I mean, I'm being silly. I'm being silly, y'all. But honestly, that's what they decided. They both sold their homes and they bought a big, beautiful home together. And yeah, and so that's called partnership, family. That's called partnership. Um, all right. Well, listen, this has been a great broadcast. We're going to go ahead and conclude for tonight. This has been a great conversation. Dr. Tangi, thank you so much. I'm going to just wrap a bow around this topic on submission and just give you this, ladies, that submission does not require you to lose control. Submission does not require you to lose yourself. Again, as we talked about at the outset of the broadcast tonight, you are to maintain your identity. You don't lose your identity because godly submission doesn't mean you're going to lose your voice. Godly submission does not mean that you start operating in a mode of passivity. Godly submission means that this man is leading you lovingly. And if he is a wise husband, he is going to want to hear your voice. He's going to lean on your wise counsel. You are here to be his helpmeet if you're his wife. So he's a foolish man if he's going out there making all the decisions by himself without consulting you, without listening to you, without making sure you are heard and that your voice has meaning. That he's not just listening to you and say, okay, I'm going to just do what I want to do. I heard you now. Shut up. No, a wise man is going to listen, incline his ear to receive what you have to say, and then make the best decision possible based on combined information that we've shared together. Okay. So this has been good. Thank you, Earl Mitchell. Thank you, sir. You have been a blessing. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Earl Mitchell said, thank you both for great insight. This is really good, good stuff. Yes, Dr. Tangi, share your book. Share your book by all means, please.
Okay, you guys. So this is one of the books that I've written, The Love Manifesto. Not just me, actually. The Love Manifesto Anthology is a collection of love ideologies that serve as an essential guide for people who are in pursuit of intimate, platonic and business relationships. In fact, Mr. Earl Mitchell, who's on the line right now, is one of the co-authors to this book. It can be purchased anywhere books are sold. And if you want to connect with me, you may do so on all social platforms at Dr. Tangi or Dr. Latangela Crossfield.
Good stuff. Thank you, Dr. Tangi, for sharing. And hey, this has been a great broadcast tonight. Thank you all for tuning in to Late Night Love Chat. We had a great discussion tonight. I'll leave this broadcast up so that you can go back and watch it for yourself. And please make sure you follow my dear friend, Dr. Tangi. Make sure you follow her, Dr. Tangi Crossfield, on social media. She is Latangela Crossfield here on Facebook. So make sure you give her a good, strong follow. You will not be disappointed. You'll be blessed beyond measure. All right. I am your host tonight, G. Hightower, the Entanglement Coach. I am called, appointed, and approved to get you unstuck, to get you untangled so that you can connect with your soulmate, your purpose partner. Blessing, fam. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Make sure you come back to the Late Night Love Chat.